point of view, having come back from that, what's Blitz saying in their ears in the break? What's he telling them?
We can't repeat that.
Oh,
I know exactly.
We can't. We can't say that on air.
I heard what he was going to say.
All right.
That's it.
I like this. I really like this.
And all of the supposition that took place pre-draft has come true because the Naga has been banned. The question now is which other one is going to get banned? Is it going to be the Meepo?
Come on.
It is going to be the Meepo. And the crowd here do not like that, by the way. They do not like that at all, and I'm along with them. The Meepo and the Naga identified as the two most dangerous heroes for Digital Chaos in terms of Newbee's opponents right now. And the first pick is going to go the way of Rubik for the second time in 3 games for DC.
So the big picks I think that we're expecting here, maybe Slardar or Jug are the most contested. I feel like DC's been very much prioritizing the Jug pick whenever they can. Newbee can also open up with like Slardar Lifestealer if they want to. Had some good success with that, although DC's lineup, unpredictable.
Okay, it is a mix-up from Newbee. They've gone away from the Slardar first pick. Slardar disrupted last time they had the first 2 picks.
Moon not too impressed with that one.
Yeah.
But, yeah, whatever.
So is this Luna SD? Luna Marana?
SD already banned.
SD's gone.
Oh, SD's gone, yeah, of course, yeah. So yeah, maybe Marana.
I like a support rather than the Marana.
You don't like it too early?
Yeah, Marana's...
They don't ban it, so they don't want to pick it.
Yeah, well, that's a clever way of actually getting rid of 3 heroes, isn't it?
It's really good. I love this pairing just because Luna's so good at 5-manning, and Underlord's fantastic at it as well. So DC's got to either win the lanes hard enough that 10-minute period or 10 to 15-minute period isn't too strong for a Newbee, or maybe they need to pick some counters. First is probably the solution, Magic especially. Kill Luna while Eclipse is going off, kill Underlord.
Could grab the Jug if they wanted it here.
I still think the Omni's very strong.
Yeah,
you could get it at this stage of the draft. Very, very good against these 2 heroes, being able to back your core on him, not having to worry too much about this huge kind of AoE damage that Underlord can offer in the team fights.
Moon, he's like, please, if you give me Omni, I'm going to go in. I'm going to purify them. They will die. We'll win. It's easy.
You should watch Moon whenever he's talking because he's so animated about absolutely every part of the draft. It's fantastic. Probably the most animated player during the draft, I think.
Newbee's turn to
Give me this! I win the game!
So they go with the really safe pick with the Jug.
Yeah, okay.
I think already this is probably indicating that they are going to try and again run this aggressive formation. They do it many times when they have at least 2 of the 3 heroes being the Juggernaut and the Rubik, starting on that off lane and contesting Luna's farm, which I reckon already it's most likely that DC will do that, considering how they played with these heroes before.
Do you think they might go back for the LC as well to get a chance?
I feel like it's more likely that they'll go Batrider versus Underlord, I feel. In one of the games of Underlord of this tournament, Batrider really made the hero look just not useful because it's very mobile. You can get around the Pit of Malice. He doesn't have very good disable. It's like good disable, but against highly mobile heroes, it's not the best. I feel like the DC's going to aim for this 1v1 matchup, which is maybe the reason they picked Jug there. Aim for a 1v1 Underlord versus something that beats it, and then try to win the tri-lane again like they did last game.
I like the Batrider idea. I think it's also very good versus the Luna. Forces her to build way more defensively than you would normally. And then you can also consider maybe like Timbersaw. I think we haven't seen too much of recently, but I think he might do pretty well in the 1-on-1 matchup versus Underlord. Is that matchup good?
I feel like it isn't because Underlord just gets a little mana and he just casts a spell. And he probably trades really well too, just because he has so much damage amp. I don't think... I feel like Underlord's good enough.
The bat's gone.
Alright, so 1v1 heroes left over. Darkseer is definitely an option. I'd say it's pretty good with Jug. I don't know if it beats Underlord, but I would say it's at least trades well.
10 seconds remaining.
Seen Misery on the Pudge twice now. One good game, one not so good game.
Remaining.
Yeah, Pudge versus
not
these 2.
Really great, is it?
Hey, I don't like it that much.
Reserve
time. Not yet, at least.
I think it's just safer if they grab a tri-lane that's really reliable. They just need like one other disable type, or some other kind of disable, and Jug spin plus Rubik lift will kill just about anybody.
I always like CM too, I think.
Really? I don't know. She's been so... I think at the least it's way too early to pick her here.
So they could roll with the Earth Spirit on the side of DC.
I see what you did there.
I feel like it's not enough damage personally. If Newbee gets ahead and they have a mech on Underlord, or Spirit doesn't have enough burst, I don't think.
You can kick people out of the Dark Crypt, though, Perch.
That's a super sick point. I haven't seen an Underlord actually escape with his ult.
That's true. We've seen it. I mean,
it's like, let's move across the map together and try to take another tower. So, Newbee gonna be forced to take their pick here. I think they just go for really safe support. Even something like Benj, I think, would be really good.
Don't they want some sort of way to deal with the Juggernaut, though? Right now, like, Ben's
true.
No problem.
Something with BKB Pierce basically is what they're thinking, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's not that many supports that do that now that are popular.
Instant stun is another solution. But again, picking it against Rubik, I don't think DC is too unhappy about that one.
Yep. But mass team fight already. Digital Chaos kind of lacking in that area.
But the big thing about the Sand King pick here is that all of a sudden their trialing is pretty crap. Like Sand King trialing, level 1 Sand King, it shouldn't be very effective, especially with Luna. Those two heroes together I don't think are amazing laning stage combo wise.
So you're looking to aggro, put pressure on the Luna?
I think they definitely aggro now
Yeah.
with the Sand King pick. It's clear. So really they just need a good 1v1 matchup against the Underlord, and then they need to predict their opponent's lanes, and then they're fairly set. Who's last pick? Looks like Newbee will get the final pick in the game, which means that DC might have to go a little safe with their mid matchup because they won't necessarily know what their opponents have.
Could they potentially throw an Undying into the trialing?
I don't think they need to, personally. I wouldn't necessarily say it's amazing against Luna either.
Yeah, it's a hero they like a lot, but
it's more of like an aggro dual lane hero than it is a tri-lane aggro dual lane. Or aggro tri. I think they just grab something safe. It's a lot of magic damage. Not really sure what the solution is.
Certainly taking the time here, buying right into the reserve. Pick up the slaughter, so
could be slaughter.
This could be the misery slaughter, couldn't it? But
Certainly.
very much so. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely could be.
100% pick rate in the grand final. All 3 games. 2 for Newbee, 1 for Digital Chaos.
Gives them another really good disable option, and as long as Rubik's in range to lift somebody, they are super dead. So you're talking about 4 seconds of disable at level 1 plus like 400 some magic damage from Jug Spin. They have more than enough to win the tri-lane.
Is there any way to ensure that the Luna doesn't get matched up against that lane?
I mean, it all comes down to like smoking and TPing to lanes and putting wards down, I guess, right?
Yeah. Or having a strong enough tri-lane that they're kind of dissuaded from doing that. I don't really see a support that can do that, though.
I mean, for Triple C, when I say any kind of hero that screams out to you, I mean, OD yet again is still there. Something that was banned out towards the end of the draft last game, and something that did do very, very well in game 1.
I feel like it doesn't really fit into their lineup right now. Maybe I'm wrong here, but
I feel like Quap or something would be way better.
Yeah,
OD,
I like
OD
that.
Luna's like a lot of overlap in terms of late game potential, amount of farm that you need.
The way the team fights work out as well, it would just feel weird with Underlord too, because you'd be banishing a guy, but then you would maybe it'd work. Yeah, Witch Doctor is just a safer way. So another tri-lane is decent. Witch Doctor, Sand King, Luna. It's good disables. Pretty good right click.
Yeah, and it can also kind of save Luna too. I like the defensive heal on the Witch Doctor. They don't have the Shadow Demon to save, so you don't want your Luna to die over and over the lane. So like lift, spin, crush.
Mm-hmm. I mean, their lineup is really good at 5 manning right now, with Witch Doctor, Underlord, Luna. That's for sure. If they get ahead, it should be a pretty clear-cut game. But I don't really feel that strong about DC's tri-lane right now. I feel like it's about even. DC has been shown to outplay in tri-lanes usually, but I feel it's all going to come down to the last 2 picks, I think. So Moon giving input on 1v1 matchups, I'm sure. It's not a terrible Legion game right now.
He just seems to really like that hero. Or Misery does.
It just solves so many issues.
Dark.
The Underlord Bus Express will be good against
You
it.
mentioned the Dark Seer earlier, and I have taken it in the second phase.
I think what I really like about the Darkseer here is it kind of guarantees that their tri-lane will have a comeback mechanic, even if they go a little rough. Because if Darkseer just gets like a fast level 4, TP to the offlane, drop an Ion Shell Surge on somebody, that should be a kill.
It's absolutely this hero as well that you kind of said that they needed. They needed someone that was going to be able to farm kind of a fast mech or pipe against the team fight, and the magical damage that Newbee are going to have. And Darkseer is certainly one of those heroes that can get that at speed.
And they can vacuum Stardust on, too. That was really effective. Newbee had some great ones last game.
Interesting that Newbee banned out the sniper.
Where did that come from?
If they want to pick
10
OD,
seconds remaining.
sniper is one of the better counters. Maybe if they like anticipate an OD, they can go with the
5
sniper.
I mean, do you think there's a high chance then DC will just ban the OD here?
I don't really think they're that scared of an OD personally.
Reserve time. 5
They're
seconds
not that
remaining.
burst heavy on DC right now. Yeah, Quap would have been really hard to deal with. Their disables are kind of lacking here. Oh, that's how you
Okay.
beat it.
Well, that's how you do it then.
That
isn't it?
is. You make
Well,
them ban out the
Yeah,
counter.
You ban the counter and you take the heroes. Perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
almost a BM ban.
That's really good against Newbee too. They're pretty stun focused,
Yeah.
pretty single target burst kind of.
This is it's kind of a reflection of the start of
10
the
seconds remaining.
pick bans when
Well-
you got the Naga and the Meepo banned and they took the Underlord from them.
Going
5
back to
seconds
SEC's pool,
remaining.
let's see what TA I think is not very good here, but he
What,
has
like
played a lot.
Invoker maybe
Reserve time.
for the
Invoker
Darkseer.
and SF, I think he can also play. It's probably the best matchup versus OD of the three,
Yeah, I like SF. I think that'd be good.
unless they pull out something a little funky.
Yeah, SF would definitely be the comfort. I mean, he's very good on the Storm, but a hero that's maybe not considered very strong at the moment in this
I
patch.
haven't seen one.
10
No.
seconds
No,
remaining.
But he plays a mean sword. But they,
Yeah.
as you said,
So if
they're
they-
comfortable.
Yeah, is the Shadow Fiend to finish off draft number 3. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We will be back at the expert desk, of course, at the end of game 3. But now, let's head over to our commentary team of Capitalist and Toby One for game number 3.
And what a game to now start. Game number 3 of Newbee versus Digital Chaos. We're looking at a lot of team fight. We're looking at a lot of action. And Newbee, well, you're on the money cap. You're looking for the SF as a 5th pickup for that mid matchup, and we've got our wish.
Yeah, I think between the two of us, we actually had those final bans and final picks pretty much covered. I think it was pretty easy for DC and Newbee to read each other and what was going to be happening here. And maybe this is going to be the first more even game. What got me so excited about game 1 and game 2, I love talking about
10
this, is when you
seconds
see,
remaining.
like, one team was very clearly ahead, right? But I don't necessarily
5
think
seconds
that
remaining.
it was the biggest stomp on either side. I think the other team, they responded in the best possible way they could in a lot of ways, right? Like strategically, I think that DC did what they had to do in game 1 to give themselves a chance. They had to do something kind of risky, and it bought them a little bit of space. Same thing happened with Newbee in game number 2. So once we start actually seeing a more even game, a more even draft, a more even, or early to mid game, we can actually really see where these teams match up against each other.
For now, we'll get to focus on our early game as Misery as well as Kaka are going to play Ringer Rosie. Like ships in the night, they won't get to properly see each other. But this may just influence Kaka. Even if Misery shows himself, there might be a ward around. In fact, are they going to come back in again? Yeah, Misery isn't visible at all to U9 where he is, and he still hasn't planted down the Observer ward. This is something else we were tossing up. Like when you have this aggressive trial lane, the DC were kind of looking to get even from the first 2 pickups. We're looking at this. Vision is going to be so critical for them.
Yeah, I think that Digital Chaos, like you're looking at that draft, and they gave away the Underlord. They do, I think they 100% knew what was going to be the picks. They grabbed Rubik. They're like, okay, Rubik's a strong pickup versus Luna, which they're very likely to get just because it's such a good core, and they also have that Underlord still out there. They're going to grab that hero as well. So I think they were probably thinking about, can we get this aggro tri-lane? The Sand King was taken away from them in the drafting phase, right? Newbee actually chose to 3rd pick it. And kind of blocked it away from DC, so we don't get to see that aggro tri lane and that clear 1v1 that we saw from DC earlier, which is, I think, a big win for Newbee. I kind of told you that I think when you do this with the Underlord, right, and you are able to break the enemy team from going an aggro tri lane and getting a strong 1v1, you're in a pretty decent advantage, because I think Underlord is probably the strongest offlaner out there right now. He's able to beat most 1v2s, and he's also, if you actually commit both supports as well as the core to trying to shove the Underlord out of lane, he's still able to jungle pretty efficiently as well. So it's like one of the few offlaners that just can always do something, and then he becomes super strong in the mid game. So it's this combination. He's like a Darkseer, but a little bit like steroided up,
Yeah.
like the sustain that is offered to him. He also gets the mech, but then it's just the combination of these team fight abilities as well as this big aura, and maybe the ultimate comes into play as well, that he just offers you that bigger boost in team fight. So I think, like, once you're able to break that, right, you have this strong lane that's always going to work for the Underlord most likely, and he's going to have really good mid-game impact. You kind of won in that regard. But DC still have this, they were still able to fall back on, okay, we'll just do a regular lane, right? We'll have a pretty strong tri-lane that can actually kill the Underlord. Rubik into a Slardar, into a spin from the Juggernaut. They'll also be able to have some good roaming power. The Rubik and Slardar are a powerful duo that can actually gank up the mid lane and keep the SF down. They could even potentially rotate up to the top lane, where we can have like Darkseer back away from his lane, preemptively set up ion shells, and who knows, maybe they can actually get some action there.
Yep.
They can still win when it comes to the roaming power of their heroes, even though I think the Underlord was a big win for Newbee in the kind of like static laning phase.
Gotta love those Weeha fans out there in the crowd. There's a hell of a lot of them, but we're back into the game after our quick pause. A couple of recorrects, and we are back up and running. So for now, even with the lane switch around, actually looks like DC are going to commit to this 2-1-2 style of having Moon up on the top, a rotating Misery, a mid Weeha, and then Resolution on the bottom lane with the Rubik. And Newbee, they got a bit of a glimpse with the maneuvering of the Slaughter, so they understand a little bit of how these lanes are going to function, but they're actually... Well, it's just switched off to moving down to the bottom lane for now. I don't know if he's really going to hang around for too long.
And what I like about the Juggernaut in particular is that I think it's one of the better heroes that can sit in a lane and not have to worry about too much about the Underlord, so it does free up the Rubik Slardar to make these rotations. They are going to have to be very clean on the rotation up at that top lane, because Newbee kind of shored up their third pick Sand King with this really strong laner in the Witch Doctor. And Faith has had some amazing plays on the Witch Doctor. His paralyzing cats seem to always get max bounces. I don't know how he does it, but he just seems to do it every single time.
We always count the Witch Doctor as the one hero who has two ultimates. One's the paralyzing cask and one's the Death Ward. And sometimes the paralyzing cask is more effective.
Yeah, and so like even if the Sand King isn't the most effective laning hero in the beginning as a support, they still have Luna and Witch Doctor who are quite strong. So if they make that kind of aggressive rotation, they need to make sure it's quite clean as they make that initiation.
I love this little maneuvering coming in from the Rubik. They've taken out that small little camp with the Sentry Ward. It may be a bit of a sacrifice because the support's moving for this. The Moon gets caught out up on the top lane. So they start with the Burrow Strike. You've still got the Paralyzing Cast. There's no bounce to work with, but it may not matter. You don't have Lose a Beam. You've got the Lunar Blessing. So a lot of physical damage coming in from this. At the same time, Rubik, who blocks the camp for the offlane Underlord, snipes out the mid courier.
Yeah, that's definitely a big pickup because SC, he's pretty reliant, I think, on being able to get this bottle. The extra sustain is going to be needed. He's going to run out of these tangos and healing cells eventually because the OD in the early levels is going to be able to do a decent amount of harassment. Once SC gets to level 5, though, the SF fares a lot better against the OD because he just double nukes the wave. Doesn't even really need to get too close. But in this small window, because he's going to be lacking that sustain, it does also open up the support rotations even more, right? You know this SF is low. He needs he doesn't actually have some of these regen items he normally rely on, and he's just a prime opportunity for you to take.
The funny thing is, too, he may even get his money when the courier's back up, because it's only the melee, he's not down for long. A little bit of trouble. Oh, nice Burrow Strike. Actually catching the Darkseer in the mid-surge to give him more time to attack into Moon, and with the Caustic slow, they may even have enough damage from Faith. Is there another little pop? The Caustics will hit him, but it shouldn't be enough to get the kill. And Moon will quickly surge away, and 2 minutes in, already being forced to trigger that shrine.
Yeah, rough times. Weeha is also going to have to pop his shrine.
Oh, Misery. Absolute, well, twat to say the best thing. He just takes the bounty rune away from KP, and he's already had the camp block. This is, like, we talked about, like, Underlord not having a real hard time because he's got other options he can do. He's already having to abandon his lane before he's hit level 2.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. This is the other plan, I guess, of DC. They know that, hey, this hero can fall back on
mid lane. They're going to go again. More TP support coming in, but actually, with that TP, Misery decides not to make the run. He actually had Sprint on cooldown as well, but that's KP TPing into the mid lane to protect the SF.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big sacrifice, unless they can find an opening, and they can, because Kaka is rotating in. Weeha, he's still got the Astral Imprisonment, but SC's got the nukes available, so he'll Astral. Wait a second, SC, maybe I want to stand right on top to take the damage, but it won't matter anyway. SC will get the kill, take the damage, and that is 2-0 now on the kill board in favor of Newbee.
KP kind of doing like the only thing he can, right? He was shoved out of his lane.
Radiant's middle tower
It's
is
interesting,
under
like
attack.
people will see this block of the offlane camp and be like, oh, but they used to do that all the time. This isn't a particular innovation. But since the change in 7.0 and the 2-minute camps, it's a lot slower to respawn. People haven't really been focused on blocking camps very often. So this is something that DC have taken that like next step level of thought, right? It's like, oh, we can actually still block this. It'll keep the Underlord at bay since he is able to jungle.
Radiant's
He
middle
moves
tower
over to
is
the
under
other side
attack.
of the camp, but this still, again, opens up. If the Underlord is completely away from this off lane, he's away from his off lane neutral camps as well. It means the two supports are very much free to either stack and pull really efficiently, or they can go for that roaming that we've talked about a couple times.
Well, I'm watching that roaming from Misery. He's up again at the 4-minute mark to take yet again another bounty rune from the bottom. So they're able to secure 3 out of the 4 bounty runes in favor of DC as Kaka hopes for an opening on Weeha. And we maybe, with the comfort of nighttime, Kaka can get close enough. But Misery has the better rune. He's got the action invis.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
This could be big. SF, though, is unlikely to be in too bad of a position with this level 5. Yeah, he's just normally just going to double nukes these waves. They're actually going to still try this Ion Shell play. They've got the invis for a little bit longer. With this invis, they could potentially close on one of these heroes.
Radiant's top
Doesn't look
tower
like it's going to
is
happen,
under
though. They head
attack.
back up to the top lane. Kaka's
Yep.
sitting, and he's
Radiant's
going to try and
structures
rotate
are
behind
fortified.
Leander and catch him.
Slaughter's going to find him. In fact, Kaka starts taking damage from an Iron Shell. He might wonder what it's from. The Burrow Strike is forward. Now the Crush over on 2 supports coming in from the Rubik. He's got telekinesis as well. They get the quick loose and beam off, so at least it's a 1-for-1 trade-off. But it's U9 the Luna, found in no man's land, wanting to run away. Kaka, the Burrow Strike's available. He doesn't get 2. Misery wrapped around the back. He still keeps that body block going, as maybe the Rubik, does he have the distance? They don't have the move well available for now, but more TP supports coming in with a elusive beam from U9. He buys space for Kaka, but the TP Misery goes
It's
from
too
side
long.
to tower. No, it's too early. He
Wow.
actually cancelled his TP, and U9 is away.
The Ion Shell just runs out a bit too late. They couldn't get enough damage onto U9. So then U9 no longer becomes a target. He turns and tries to get that crush, but U9 turned around and got the perfect time loosened beam. That bit of mini stun stopped Misery from being able to get off the slithering crush that would have probably killed Kaka's Sand King.
Man, huge plays from Newbee. We know they love to dive. We saw it earlier today when they dive into the tier 1 tower of the Radiant side safe lane. But they do it once again as a team.
KP is beginning to recover, level 4, as his Underlord, Moonmeander, has been able to achieve a bit more. He's about to pick up his level 6 as the Darkseer, and he'll have a quicker progression into his mech as well. The mid lane matchup does seem to be going pretty well for SC. He's 34-9 compared to the 29-6 of the OD, but he still has to fear. I think he's reached the right time to start abandoning the lane and play jungle more. He knows how powerful the Rubik Slardar combination is going to be, and they have all the reason to jump on the mid lane. So I like the fact that he kind of abandons this, gives it to Kaka, because if they commit the resources to kill a level 3 Sand King, it's not a big deal. Newbee will just kind of shrug that one off.
KP, when they saw the Observer Ward sitting in mid, they knew they didn't want to go for that, and instead they just rotate down to the Underlord. He only had 300 HP to start with, and now he's down to 0. Great rotation from DC, and now they'll add the pressure into the tier 1. But it's a trade-off, as SC has already taken the top tower with U9 and Fate together.
Yeah, with this double damage and the extra help of the Lunar Blessing, they output a ton of physical damage. Moonender's in some serious trouble.
He actually hoped the illusions from the Dark Steel Wall would soak up a little bit more of that Eclipse.
Not enough, and now Newbee, they can actually keep up the pressure, as this tier 1 tower of theirs in the off lane is going to be lost, but they'll get a lot of chip on this tier 2 before DC can rotate.
Misery should be very thankful he didn't get hit by any more of that Firestorm. Managed to back out on very low life from the bot lane.
Resolution fortunately has the necessary sustain because of the healing ward to be able to deal with any harassment that KP can put out. So again, DC can just leave Resolution in this bottom lane. It's a dead scenario, right? Because Newbee can't rotate their supports. That's the thing about their supports, is they're kind of bad at making these rotations. Kaka had some successful rotations early, but I think it was in part because he snowballed off the 2 kills on Moonmeander. He was able to get fast boots and almost had fast Tranquil boots. Those were a bit delayed though. And because of that movement speed advantage, his Sand King looked a lot better, but ultimately they're not heroes that are going to be able to gank a Juggernaut, right?
No ward for you, Witch Doctor. OD comes and denies it in the mid. Also look at the quick fire of Wee. We know Wee's already been giving us the Vanguard Maelstrom build on the Invoker, but he's actually looking at one of the newly changed items, which is Rod of Atos.
Ring around the rosy, Faith. He's trying to juke.
He's got the ultimate.
It's not going to happen.
On the side space. Oh, and it's bounce down the last one to the SK. SK's neighborhood. Resolution. Doesn't want to get in too deep here, but there's 5 heroes from Digital Chaos under this tier 1 tower.
They're pushing back. They know the Eclipse is still on cooldown, so I think DC were trying to take advantage of that. Make a rotation, get a pick, and then they can easily take this mid-tier 1 tower. But unfortunately, looks like SC's nukes are enough to push DC back.
That's actually so big for New because they still had U9 as well as KP on the sidelines getting experience and farm. You're a 5-man committal and you don't get a kill and you don't get a tower.
And we almost have that Helmet Dominator for U9, so he'll be able to have that extra presence around the map. Newbee making very aggressive rotation with the setup. I love how active they're playing him. They're just not just parking him in the mid lane.
They're coming for Wee. SC, all he needs is that Burrow Strike to connect, and then the Razors will do the work. Hits once, then actually maybe with the one charges and the saving of the infused raindrops. He'll defensive imprison, but SC will see it. He's in range for the short range raise. Oh, too early! They'll still hit him in the trees. The committal of the Death Ward from Face just to make sure. But maybe Misery in through the rear. They don't have the shrine to trigger.
We're seeing this build all the time. OD, I think Queen of Pain is another hero that really benefits from it. Having the strength treads and then being able to pick up an infused raindrop as well as a magic wand makes these heroes that are normally looked at as pretty squishy a little bit unnaturally tanky. And we saw that from that reaction. They definitely thought, oh, this is going to be an easy kill on the OD, but he almost got away.
Almost, but almost wasn't enough. Newbee is still happy with that kill, and they're going to add that pressure now down to bottom lane. Just pushing it around, and Misery understands he has to slither himself away. This is not a fight he is wanting to take.
I think this is fine for DC, though.
As long as they can get something in return. For now, the tier 1 tower mid lane hasn't taken that much damage. Fortification will buy some space and time for them to get that push going.
What they're setting up is DC are making these rotations from the supports. They know Newbee are going to take this tower and then try and TP rotate to save their mid-tier 1. But if they do that, they're going to be very much exposed because DC are just going to wrap real quickly, kill the first hero that TP's in. So Newbee...
Oh, they're TPing in.
That.
They're coming in with the help of the Pit Lord and back to the tier 2 tower.
It's still the fact that they couldn't TP onto the tier 1, right? Because they knew DC was preemptively set up, so they had to TP onto the tier 2, so it was the same result.
Yep. There's still a tower for a tower and a lot of space for U9.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's space for U9, but I still feel like that's a better situation for DC just because I put more value in the mid-tier 1 over safety towers in general.
SC's got his first initiation item, so he's got the Shadow Blade flying out in the Curious. There's only 11 minutes in, a very high net worth Shadow Fiend. Now with the ability to close distance and a very quick smoke as well from Newbee, they want to try and capitalize on this new item timing. And they may get the opportunity. Resolution's walking down the hill. They're going to have to wrap all the way around, however, if they're going to catch him by surprise, or they move to top lane as he just showed himself, and Newbee are in a fantastic position for this. How long does Wee stick around? Way too long. They've found him. The Burrow Strike's there. Razors, Death Ward, a little bit overcommittal, but it makes sure that DC can't catch him up to him in time and do anything about it.
Yeah, Faith knows he's not going to see too many opportunities for Death Ward in the early game, so he's fine with blowing it, and it's also not too long of a cooldown. Kanka, connecting with these ganks are pretty important for him because even if it's just the assist gold, he needs to start progressing towards that Blink Dagger. They don't have a hard form of initiation. That's the one thing about Underlord, is that because you're picking up this heavy sustain hero as an offlane, you need to make up for the initiation from your core.
Omni Slash, it bounced back into the creeps! Another unlucky little bounce. He was pushing his luck on it anyway. At top lane, a lot of TPs coming in from DC. Newbee, they add the pressure, they force a reaction from DC, and now they back up to control.
It's really remarkable how similar these lineups are, right? You have, in the mid lane, 2 scaling mids that are a little bit more glass cannon style for both DC and Newbee. Their offlaners, they both chose to pick up like more of the sustain, the early mech option, rather than an initiator, which means they had to make up for that by picking up 4 positions that get the initiation for them. Misery is much closer to his Blink Dagger, though. He is actually going to have his Blink well before the Sand King will, who's only sitting at 1,000 gold. Misery just just needs another 350 to be able to complete his Blink Dagger. They can start getting some really nice initiation, because his initiation won't have the same effect as having, say, carrying a Lifestealer or something, but he will have Ion Shell. That's going to be able to add quite a bit of damage to just that. And then presumably DC are going to be playing pretty 5-man behind that. So
I'm interested to see how effective that's going to be, because at the same time he's about to pick up his Blink Dagger, you're going to have Pit Lord get that first mech timing. And that's what we're looking for from Newbee, that big 5-man group up. If DC want to fight, what happens when that regeneration, that sustain that comes in from just the presence of the Overlord kicks in?
Yeah, and on top of that, you have Pit of Malice, which really halts any aggression in place. And then you kind of get stuck in this firestorm. You're thinking to yourself, we don't want to take a fight in this area, but you've kind of already made that commitment. So it's going to be the storyline where DC will have the first opportunity to strike, and they can actually set the tempo of this game, but there is equal opportunity for Newbee to have a strong reactionary force that punishes DC's move.
Rod of Atos is now completed over on Weeha. Another one of those items which potentially can control up Newbee, but with Pit, with Cask, with Burrow Strike, all these things together and the sustain, I really want to see if DC find an opening more than anything else. Maybe that's when we look to see the vision that's currently on the map. For DC, they do actually have some really good defensive vision around their secret shop, as well as inside their own river, and one nice aggressive observer ward just on the upper side of the Roche pit.
I'm feeling like these aggressive wards, there's just not enough up from Newbee, so DC, knowing how important this initiation is going to be, they're going to group up, they're going to go for the smoke. They're still going to try and, I think, show Weeha somewhere on the map, so it makes this, oh wow.
They're actually going to try this. The question is, does DC realize it? They smoked in, we've got one little mud golem running inside the pit.
All right.
Boils the whole thing. Kaka.
Oh god, it's going to be so bad.
He goes Weeha, Misery, he gets stunned. The Darkseer wall is down with the Eclipse turns on with the Fire Strike. Already the Darkseer is exploded and she gets the ulti off. Now they actually have the fight that Newbee was looking for with the Death Ward down. Only ulti will do some work, but not really enough yet. As Roshan is so low, they want to finish the job. The Darkseer wall is causing a couple of problems, not making more copies unless that's really just to farm it. The Egg of the Immortal goes to SC, plus the kill on Roshan to Newbee.
Oh man, I thought that was going to be really bad for Newbee. I thought they were going to get caught inside the pit. I'm not sure if Misery made the right call or not. Did you see what he did? He, instead of going for the really flashy, a lot of people would just tunnel in and they'd be like, oh god, oh god, oh god, I'm going to jump into the pit and I'm going to stun so many people. He instead saw Kaka, and I think, knowing that they were in the Roshan pit, I think he decided it's better for me to stun up this initiator who's going to be able to counter us. Our smokes are going to pop as we funnel into the pit, and Kaka is going to be able to get this really good burrow strike and potentially an epicenter off of that. So maybe it's better for me to be able to stop this initiating force instead of going for the big play inside of the pit. Obviously, the fight did not go well for DC, but I have no way of knowing, right? If maybe it was a good call and it was just a bad fight in general. Maybe he jumps in and that's exactly what happens. A 2 or 3 man burrow strike comes out from Kaka.
There was 2 people that made the same call, because Suxa was right on the same time. So the second that crush hit, the telekinesis connected, so they didn't actually get their full duration control on the SK. That's why you could quickly follow up into that burrow strike, and you're like, okay, well, you crushed this target, but then he's already back in and controlling up the team fight.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe if Misery lets Soxa be able to control the Sand King instead, telekinesis in, throws him away from the team, and then the rest of them funnel into the pit. Maybe that's a huge win for DC, and he just immediately take control of the game and keep Newbee on the back foot, because Newbee do want to start taking control somewhat. They've got this Luna strategy that can bully down towers so quickly. That is the one main difference, I think, between, I said DC's and Newbee's drafts are remarkably similar. I think the biggest difference is you have this sustain and kind of dead lane hero in the Juggernaut who's really hard to gank, and he's a powerful fighting force who offers you the healing ward. The Luna, on the other hand, a little bit squishier, but offers you a lot more offensive power, particularly when it comes to taking objectives. With the backup of the SF's physical damage, this team can just barrel through tier 2s really quickly if they get a lead like they just did off of that Roshan. A little bit of risk involved by Newbee, but it had so much reward available.
Yeah, and that's the danger that DC knew could potentially come from him, and that's the reason why they were hoping oh, we just get an SK, we get a really good lane against the Pit Lord, you commit multiple heroes to shutting him down so you don't get that early advantage, you don't have that mech timing. Imagine if they did actually stay on top of that Underlord, then you'd actually have no quick mech, no space to even farm up that mech inside the jungle.
That's the hard part, though. Remember, I was saying, like, you commit heroes to the Underlord and you try and shut him down, but ultimately this guy always gets his mech because he's just so efficient at being able to jungle, right? You just can't be everywhere at once. It's kind of like a Darkseer. You can only stall him up so much before he gets that big sustain item.
Maybe if this was the old map of Dota, you could ward up a lot of those camps, but there's just so many of them just to bump through. It's impossible. Like, so the only thing they could have done, which is what they did do, they warded up the camp close to the bottom lane, at least make that Underlord walk away. We're back into the game as the resuming is there, so Tier 1 tower will fall as we are underway.
DC going to have to play...
They're playing split game. Resolution's getting the Tier 1 tower on top lane, so they get some kind of trade-off here.
Yeah, I think they're just going to have to protect their tier 2s on the side lane via heavy split pushing.
This is so, like, the push is too hard. Even when you come in close, you then start bumping up U9. The imprisonment will be there. Paralyzing cast will cause a couple of problems. A lot of iron shells here, but 10 to pit him out. It holds him out. Resolution into the spin. Misery gets an amplification over on U9. They're all just backing up Newbee. A good reaction. Fade may be the casualty here, but his paralyzing cast is back off cooldown. He'll come out in the imprisonment. SC, what's he doing? He's going to use the first creep to start with. Fade, where's that paralyzing cast? It never comes out, and now you've actually got that rod of Aethos route onto the SF. He gets up the hill. The pit is just KP creating space. He's out of mana. They don't want to fight now.
Yeah, there's no reason to. They've got Kaka about to finish up a Blink Dagger, and he also needs to hit his level 9 so he can actually level up Epicenter and have that initiation opportunity. So I think it's much smarter for Newbee to back away from that engagement. In fact, I was even surprised they got close to the Witch Doctor. I thought they were just going to be like, all right, see you later, buddy. We're definitely not helping you out there. Because they do need to be careful. The Rod of Aethos, it's easy to misjudge the range of this item. Like, it's a really good ensnare now. I think it's a great value item for the OD. It allows you to be able to have this extra catch that can, you know, just get the extra hero. If Misery gets a good initiation with his Crush, they kill one, then maybe Weeha's Rod of Aethos into an Astral Imprisonment allows them to be able to catch two, similar to the way a Disruptor works.
Speaking of initiation, that's the next place to look, is down towards the Rubik, who just picked up a smoke. And to team up with the Slardar's Blink Dagger, try and get Misery onto the front lines, get that quick pick, as Newbee might start to split themselves across the map, which they've been doing quite a hell of a lot. And in fact, SC is already coming back. He was crossing over the river, so it's more of just the efficiency farm TP back. But DC have to look for these openings, create a little bit of space, and let that OD continue to escalate.
I'm not sure if Newbee want to go for tier 2s just yet. I think they need to wait for the BKB on the SF and then the Luna Manta. They'll have really good...
Got the vision, Blink Crush forward, going over on Kaka, but there's a lot of friends behind.
Yeah. That's the thing, is Newbee always seem to be able to have these lineups that allows them to push out side lanes while still maintaining a 5-man vigil. And that allows them to be able to, if they can take an early lead, thanks to some of their aggressive maneuvers as a team, if they can take that lead, then they have very few times where they leak away any extra gold due to picks, because they just stay this constant 5-man. There's no easy openings for DC to make that recovery gold.
Where are we off to? Underlord is down to bottom lane, so they're just going to start pushing towards the bottom tier 2 tower. I love this little Satyr, which is just hovering around with U9. You talk about that early pickup, but Slarder can't even get his Corrosive Haze onto any hero. There's no big burst damage. Now Slarder is in fact the one to get burst damage down. They commit the Eclipse, and Misery is toast.
The Eclipse is going to be on cooldown for a while, so I think DC can still be aggressive, especially since they know the Underlord ultimate went bottom.
Kaka's leaving. Taka is actually leaving. U9 has to start running back to the tier 2
He's
tower.
got the Satyr Vanisher in place.
And it sees DC's maneuver.
Yeah, he was going to get out either way, but U9 just took that extra step to make sure he wasn't going to be caught by the rotation. Now this means, because of that failed movement by DC, it means Newbee's push at the bottom lane is going to be all the more effective. What's DC do? I think if they can't actually rotate bottom and save that, I think they just try and get as much damage on the tier 2 top in exchange.
Well, we talked about how DC don't really, well, trade that well. At least with Resolution there, they can trade decently. But the damage coming out from SD at the moment is already over 200. each hit, and he's not even getting up to the extra talent tree levels.
Yeah, they're committing like all 3 of their cores to taking this tier 2 tower. Meanwhile, Newbee took that bottom tier 2 without U9. He was just kind of like doing some ancient farming and general farm efficiency because he knows he's not needed. He just needs to make the best of the space that's created for him.
And that farm efficiency is paying off. 6,000 golden experience is now the advantage for Newbee. So not a bad figure to have. 19 minutes in for a bit of a lower killer game than we're used to. 14 kills over the course of almost 20 minutes.
This OD's feeling pretty lackluster. Sitting at only 8,200. He's got Blink Dagger now, but
maybe
like
he'll feel a little bit more confident once he's got that second maneuverability item. Like having Blink plus Atos, finishing up the range item to have that full Hurricane Pike to go with the Dragonlance. Through the Dragonlance.
See, we've got the Manta pretty soon for U9, so the combination of Underlord and the Manta Luna, these side lanes really should never be able to threaten a tier 2 tower again unless Newbee is making some sort of really efficient play. DC, what do they do here? Because they're not going to be able to really heavily split push. I don't think they're prepared to be able to defend their tier 2s, but then again, it is the last remaining tier 2. You can't give up shrines. You can't give up that critical map control this early on in the game.
They're starting their TPs, but Newbee are all in position to fight this. They've got Nalful behind him. The damage aura is just beautiful. Karka's got his range initiation. You got a lot of survivability on everybody, including that fresh Solar Crest the Underlord just picked up, and yet they let it go. Resolution adds a little bit of pressure to bottom lane, but unlike last game, he doesn't push very quickly.
I think they were hoping Newbee would just make a mistake in their positioning, but DC didn't see one, so they were like, okay, we have to give up this fight, which means we have to give up shrines. Ooh, this played back into the top lane is interesting.
Oh, the sentry wards are there for the forest, right? They wind up, and Darkseer can't survive Misery. The BKB, SD got robbed, the Misery Scratch has no effect. The last attack Fenty will do the work, and a quick TP out. Not enough Chris to help. They get 2 kills and get away with murder.
That was pretty cool. I like that so much. Like Newbee, they make this play, they like go for the shrine immediately Dark Rift, but they keep 2 of their heroes out of it and just keep this really surprising. Like I'm sure DC were like, wait, what? Where the 2 heroes are still in the top lane. They make the free gank in, manage to pick up the Darkseer as well as the Slardar and still get out because of this BKB.
And you can see the reaction time. He's sitting there with a sentry ward. Yes, we're still 2 minutes away from daytime, so the vision was very, very tight. But still, Digital Chaos losing heroes like this now gives Newbee even more map control. DC, well, that's Moon TPing out to the shrine right behind KP.
Yeah, he wants to stop this bottom lane push, and they want to maintain control of their jungle. They can't give up the shrine. Like I was saying, like they can't give up tier 2 because it just means the shrines start disappearing.
Moon, they found Faith. He's more of a sacrifice than anything else. Faith trying to get that Maledict off in any kind of follow-up, and yeah, that ain't happening. And in fact, all he did is actually give it over to the Rubik.
I think DC have to be very precise with their movement. Can't afford any pickoffs or anything like that, and they have to always be able to read what Newbee's plan is in order to keep this bottom shrine up. Like, in some ways, it's inevitability that they're going to make that mistake, or Newbee are just going to be able to outposition them, get some sort of smoke gank, and then turn that into an advantage that promises that tier 2's destruction. But it's such a critical point of map control in a lineup that DC is still, they're not ready to fight, and they're also not ready to just sit in their base and let gold trickle into them. They need to be able to farm, but Newbee is very rapidly looking like they're going to push in all of the lanes constantly. They're going to be able to farm to their heart's delights, take Roshan, whatever they need to. It's beginning to look like the way DC was controlling Game 2, actually, with that Naga Siren.
Roshan is actually where Newbee's looking now. I've watched this Alpha Wolf, which is currently sitting inside the pit, trade owners 3 times. It started on the Luna, then Resolution got hold of it, and then it went back over to the Luna. Is currently scouting for Newbee. The battle of the Doms. Newbee looking in a very, very good position if DC want to fight this, and everyone, like it's all 10 players hovering around this mid lane.
I'm not sure if they have enough of this team fight power. Like they have to get a really good blink vacuum into a blink crush, The wall sent down. Weehawk gets a couple of right clicks in and maybe drops his Sanity's Eclipse.
Well, we'll find if they can get the positioning. It's Newbee who are the ones to smoke up to start with. They're going to wrap around, and they found their target. It's Resolution. It's a big one, but he gets away under the cover of spin from Tarka.
Oh, there it is!
They jump in! They jump in, but SC's winding up the ulti and just instantly hits back. And Odie has to defensively imprison. It's the only way to save up himself, but now it's still not enough. Face with the Death Sword. It doesn't work. The Omni Flash, however, finally Resolution gets some damage out. The paralyzing cast negated by the spin, but Moon trapped in the tree line, trying to get away, but the Burrow Strike. Karka puts himself actually almost trapped. There's a small path to freedom, allowing now Moon to run away, and again Karka missing the blink. He doesn't get down to Moon. That could have actually been a lot more of a catastrophe for DC.
Oh, I mean, DC, they hit like that perfect kind of initiation. Moon Meander saw the opening. Despite the fact that the Juggernaut had been forced away, he said, this is a good shot. We need to be able to try and fight around this shrine. He goes for this beautiful vacuum into the crush, into the OD ultimate being dropped. But ultimately, the sustain of the Underlord does make a big difference. He pops the heal. None of these heroes are low enough for them to be able to quickly kill. Like the Luna's able to freely get off this big Eclipse. It keeps most of DC at bay. And
same thing with SC, like the second that damage reduction kicked in, you're like, oh, what's DC gonna do now?
Yeah.
Like you had nothing to do, and the only thing they really had was the Juggernaut battling and the heroes so far away, like the corrosive haze on them, that they had enough damage to get through them.
Careful, Resolution.
They try to trade owners again, and now, well, it's actually the Rubik.
Oh, that's a BKB used.
Yeah, maybe not the greatest thing in the world, but
probably still needs Roshan for free though.
unless they want to have a crack at it.
I think
DC didn't have vision of the BKB being used.
it's tough because DC is seeing like, okay, we do have to contest them, but similarly, it's an impossible task sometimes to contest them. They have to pick and choose their fights really carefully, like how they rotated up to that top tier 2 and then decided against it. They saw, okay, they're really well positioned, that they're letting SC just beat down the tier 2, we can't go for it. And then they also saw the opening around that shrine. It didn't work out for them, but it was an opening that they determined this is the fight we take. It's a tricky game that DC is playing. You know, picking and choosing their fights like this, because split pushing is just not, it's not going to be enough. You know, they can't just play a split push game and be happy with that. The power of the Underlord allows you to be able to quickly 5-man into objectives and then still back up as a team. Because even if like DC try and force an engagement defending, you just pop your ultimate, go to that side lane that's being pushed in, and you've got some free chip damage at least.
U9 was hovering around the top. I think he might have found an opening, but not quite. They'd have to bring a lot of help to him in the form of probably the Underlord's TP.
No, it's funny, the last time that DC faced up against this Underlord, it was kind of a similar scenario. They did everything they could to be able to counter this hero, but then we saw, like they had this fight around the mid-tier 1 tower, that the Underlord was still so good that even though they got a really good initiation and everything, the Underlord made such a big difference in the team fights. And they even picked up certain heroes similar. I think they had both an Ursa and an OD, heroes that are able to provide extra sources of damage that are not reduced by the atrophy aura. You know, OD is able to obviously do a lot with his arcane orbs, and then Ursa had his fury swipes.
Good ways around it, but they still need to survive long enough to actually get the damage off in a fight. And the Underlord is still only one piece of this very large puzzle that Newbee is. So DC, for now they're keeping the status quo. For now they're just staying on their side of the river, keeping the farm up, and they're waiting for Newbee to make the big play. But Newbee is starting to pull in more items. So you had that butterfly, which just got picked up over on the SF.
Oh,
wow.
just ahead of Misery.
He's still going to get hit. The spin up. The SK is going to hit the ground in a second. With the spin, they push it down a little bit further forward with the 4-star. And it's just retreat now for DC if they can. The Burrow Strike again. Karka goes in, loses the beam, defensive imprisonment. This guy's going to wait the time down. KP trying to catch the back line. SK will Burrow Strike up, but the attack from the SF still follows the through. Down the other side. They group up the back. The wall is good, but where's the damage? SC rips the ulti out, turns his attention over towards Weeha. It's a double kill for SC. They're starting to farm up the illusions in the wall. It's also time to move to the mid lane.
A slight misread there. I think KP was a bit out of position. Resolution thought maybe I can actually just Omni Slash this hero and then spin as I kill him. I spin and run back and I'll just be able to get away. But unfortunately, the rest of Newbee were able to get there in time. All of a sudden, it's Omni Slash. Pounces go deeper and deeper into Newbee's team, and that just kind of forced Moon Meander and make an initiation. But
The difficult hold. OD detaching with his buyback. He was the only person. Now she's Juggernaut enough money to get the buyback. They jump forward. SD tried to stand his ground. Remember, he's got the Aegis, the BKB from Moon 9 triggers, and with a tower down, the Glaze will start to bounce. There's going to be a lot of damage going through the line of DC, especially when Kaka gets the Burrow Strike. Weeha is a die back for him. You can say goodbye to Rubik. This SF is going beyond godlike to claim the mid racks. And now with all the tier 2 towers down, you know what they're going to do? They're going to destroy it and actually get the GG call out from DC. Very efficient, very crisp from Newbee.
I think DC learns a pretty important lesson. Last time they faced up against the Underlord, they got a 1v1 scenario, and they had some pretty good heroes to be able to deal with it. It almost won out in that game. In a certain team fights, it looked pretty good, but ultimately DC did win the game. They felt comfortable. They're like, oh, we can beat an Underlord.
Yep.
Underlord was a really big factor here. The rest of Newbee also played really well.